Again, I felt lucky to talk to a verified account, someone famous I had followed for what? This doesn't seem friendly at all. What the fuck is happening? I felt like felt lucky to be talking to a verified account, someone famous, someone I had followed and watched for a while. I wouldn't call this banter. All right, let's watch some silly stuff. Silly goose stuff. Actually, no. Let's look at some drama. Let's look at some drama. Let's take a look. See what happens. What's this?
I complimented your hair and now my wife is mad at me. She raged in front of our parents saying I don't compliment her hair like I do yours. She has locked herself in our room, shouting she will divorce me and just be back to being my sister.
Go back to being my sister. Okay, that was a troll. I was gonna say, like, I've seen the little internet video where it's like, how about you stop liking women on the internet and you tell you stop telling the women on the internet they're hot and tell that to your wife. And then the guy turns around, he goes, honey, women on the internet are hot. And it's the perfect like turnaround, and I laugh every time I see it. I laugh every time I see it. All right, what's this?
Guys. I've been touched before when I didn't want you, when I was drunk, again. And dude, nobody gives a fuck. I got made fun of for it. Nobody gives a fuck.
I think as a whole, though, men deal with it differently. And I think that's one of those hard truths that that I think we're not willing to adjust how we approach to it. We kind of handle it our own way. And when it comes to that whole like posting and stuff like that, we don't have like a movement to kind of like understand a framework of how that shit goes. And I think for the most part with men, in XQC's case, it's probably because, you know, there's a degree of community who would see it and they do consider it a toxic way. But for most men, I'd say it's a fear of feeling weak.
You go out with somebody and you both take one drink each, right? How is it that, dude, the girl can't consent? Okay, the guy can't consent either in that definition. By definition, if the girl can't consent, the guy can't either.
Who was the aggressor in the situation? And yes, a woman could be an aggressor just as much as a man could be an aggressor. You can be an aggressor and you're both hammered. You can be a victim and you're both hammered. It's obvious. People try to obfuscate it with like different situations. They'll like, oh, you know, like who says he wanted to make the choice? But it's obvious. And I feel like when the facts are presented, it's clear. But people try to be like, oh, but I thought this. I was thinking this. All right, so where does this start? All right. I think this is the first one. Is this where it starts? For now, this is what I have to say. He admitted to touching me, that I was drunk, that I verbally didn't consent. In my mind, the conversation is over. He said silence does not equal consent. Yet, never got verbal confirmation from me. Chose to move to a sexual act on the couch where everyone was hanging out without asking. I don't know how these two facts coexist. How can I consent when there was no question? How can I consent when drunk? I prepared proof on the idea he would admit to it, that he would deny touching me or being there, but he admitted it then that I was drunk, and then he touched me in front of everyone. That I never said yes, nor did he ask, and I'm still asked for a response, proof, explanations. Frankly, I think it's insane. If you still need more from hearing him admit these two simple facts, then nothing I can say is going to change your mind. But here it is. addressing the stream. As for the iMessages he showed outside of his Insta DMs, all proof was him showing up a group chat he wasn't even in. Showing messages from my friends was to me. The only message showing a response from me was when we were asked to drink a game we played, that were after we played the first night, the night where nothing happens. I liked the game and I wanted to play with other friends in the conversation, so I asked the name. Why I went back? Because my friends want to. And I went back with them everywhere they went that trip. I would also like to clear up that this all happened when I went back. Nothing happened when the first night something. I also did not admit the first time because it's embarrassing. I thought it irrelevant, but the second night, another reason I was willing to go back. I heard a different creator who was in the room wanted to meet. This is all over the place. I can't even fucking read this. Am I just terrible at reading this in general? From what I'm getting, there was a get together where stuff happened publicly. But this is all over the place. Okay. Whew. But Blank brought me and Ghosty back to Dream's room to see him. He said Blank was there too with some other people. So I was excited because I always wanted to get to know Blank. Blank left right before we showed up, so it was just Dream and George, and then we show up and I'm like, fuck, okay, drinking games, etc. Ghosty leaves to throw up. Then it's like 4 of us, we're all drunk, and honestly really weird because I was drunk too and I was trying to comprehend what was happening, but we were up till 6:30 a.m. Okay. They were all fine, like I said in my stream. I did have my age in my bio, like it is to this day. The messages were nothing insane, just banter. Like I said, I admitted to messaging him after I never hid the fact. I was still considering myself lucky for what had happened to me, even if I was uncomfortable and didn't ask for it. I was hating myself around now, thinking I was ungrateful, but now, as you can see, nothing insane or proof is worthy is just being said, just banter. I hope you got lost. I hope your elevator fucking plummeted as soon as you stepped in it. I'm so sorry for the bad news, but it didn't. And made it back so easily, slept so well. Try harder to die next time. The fuck is this banter? So you better be nice to me. If you come to Dreams Hotel again tonight, I'm shooting your leg, so don't. Oh, awkward. I'm in his room now. You're not gonna do shit. Throw a wet tampon at you. It worked. Is this how people fucking talk? Thank God. Never message me again. Which one is her? Okay, she's the color ones. Can't believe you already miss me. Why are you so busy? Surely you have time for me. You're not a popular guy. I have time, just not for you. I am not a popular guy. Ask any girl you know. I don't know any girls. Why do you have the time for me? What the fuck? Again, I felt lucky to talk to a verified account, someone famous I had followed for what? This doesn't seem friendly at all. What the fuck is happening? I felt like felt lucky to be talking to a verified account, someone famous, someone I had followed and watched for a while. I wouldn't call this banter. Not in the slightest. I was uncomfortable with what happened, but I tried to swallow it and suck it up so I didn't have to acknowledge or accept it. Although our texting ended in a month after, I can see why people find me at fault. But the thought process of someone who went through what I have is a very unique experience, which is why I understand why it seems so stupid. Only so many people have been in it to understand. I think it's simple to understand. If you're involved with somebody who is more popular or has not necessarily power over you, but power in the space that you would like to exist in, or something that you idolize, then at first it can seem like something it's not when it is. The time, believe it or not, though, the time does matter. I will say the time does matter. I think a lot of people like to go like it doesn't matter how much time has passed. I think it does matter. I think it does matter because depending on how much time has passed in a situation like this, it can vary things that have happened. You can go, you could be like, oh yeah, this was all fine, but then they cut me off and now it's not fine. Like this popular person cut me off, this popular person did this. Or on the opposite side, this person that I'm having this fling with, or we did things together, now that they're cutting me off, they're trying to drag me through the mud because they want to make themselves look better. In a situation that, you know, was simple. They're making it more complicated now, to tear me down. So it can go both ways. And I think time does matter in those situations. Does a one-sided situation, does time matter? Maybe not as much, because in reality, if someone is sexually assaulted, doesn't matter how much time it is sexual assault. People have fear of reprisal and things like that. She could have moved. Yes, I got up and sat in the same spot, getting up to drink more. Mentally, I believe in a room on a sofa with people on it. You just sit back where you were when you get up. I was also drunk, and even if I were to move, that would be an obvious hit to his ego and everyone in the room. This is another thing that's like you're assuming that type of thing, like you don't want to hurt people's feelings, but it won't, because somebody who's like respectable and actually gives a shit, it won't hurt their feelings. It'll be like, hey, like that shit we were doing, like we're cool, but like we're not gonna take a step further than that. So assumptions made on both sides, in my opinion, there, because you're making an assumption that someone's not gonna be like they're gonna have a wounded ego by you leaving and moving a spot. They may, but just say shit. Just use your words. That's okay. A bold move I didn't make. I could just deal with it till the night was over. I didn't want someone I had watched for a while with a large following hate me for denying to even sit near him. I didn't want to embarrass him or myself. I know it's a dumb thought process. I acknowledge it. She stayed when her friends left. I didn't make conscious decision to choose to say my friend left throwing up in her hand, and I didn't know. She was so drunk she couldn't hold in her vomit and passed out in the bathroom. And the more the night went on, the drunker I was. Like I said before, I put up with it in a moment because I thought it's the price I had to pay for being around such big creators. Those last 3 points, I may remind you, are not an invitation to be sexual or that I wanted it. And if he thought it, he could have asked. Yeah, I think there are awkward situations in parties where it's like you feel not necessarily obliged to do stuff with people, but you feel obliged to like not make the situation worse, and so you kind of don't want to stick out. So it's understandable. I think often you're silent in those situations because you just want to either be helpful or you don't want to make things more complicated. Just in general, I think that's totally normal. Well, he assumed because your body language. We had just met. Well, you think he knew me so well he could assume how I felt. Assumed that he knew my mannerisms meant. You didn't know me. Apparently, you didn't even know my age, but you knew that I wanted. No, he assumed it's what I wanted because why wouldn't I want that from someone like him? Yes, you can assume off of body language. That's a given. I think that people assume things because like, oh, she's not saying anything because of this, and she's not told me that she's uncomfortable, so that must mean she's okay with this. So I don't think you can assume anything off of body language. I think people put on a front normally because they want to impress people. That's normal. And remind me, since we were smiling an invitation, or smiling, when was smiling an invitation? When was sitting next to a person, someone an invitation? When was being drunk an invitation? Any laughing I did with your hand under my clothes was out of nerves because I didn't think cuddling would result of that, and shock left me speechless because I'd never been to a guy's hotel room, never done anything sexual with and never expected that cuddling meant that what it did. Didn't know what is normal or not. I think a lot of people will say why do you put yourself in that situation? Things escalate, things move forward and things progress out of your hands, and then all of a sudden you're in that situation. I think a lot of people make their worst mistakes in a situation surrounded by people, and it's not necessarily direct peer pressure. It's like it's self-imposed in a way, but it is up to people to remind you that just because those things exist, those scenarios exist, doesn't mean that you deserve it. So I think that's definitely on him. You're a grown fucking man who knows better. Why do I have to be strong and pull away or say stop? It's my fault because I was asking for it, hinting at it. I should have known, but never his for being able to ask a simple question before doing it. At his age, silent can be consent. A head nod is a silent confirmation. In order for confirmation to happen, it needs to follow a question that was never asked. How is a drunk person supposed to consent? You think I was empowered to consent for a 26-year-old man to touch me because I laughed. He was drunk too. Personally, when I'm drunk, I don't stick my hand under people's clothes on a couch in a room full of other people without asking. That's just me, though. I think people use those public situations to be like, you don't want to make it weird, so let me do shit that's like totally uncalled for. Everyone in the room could verify she was comfortable. My text the day after, hey, I want to make sure you're okay. I didn't like the way George was touchy and told me about the shirt thing, and I just want to make sure you're all right. Yeah, I'm okay. I was definitely a bit weird, but I was drunk, so I didn't feel like doing anything to stop it anyway. It's over now. So, hey, but I wanted to double check with you that George didn't make you uncomfortable at all last night. He said he was getting really touchy with you. Just wanted to double check. Smile. Maybe, bro, I have no clue. Like in the moment I was chilling, but thinking back, I'm sweating a little bit. Damn. And especially after verifying, so he knew I was 18. And also, I don't know, I was chilling in the moment because I was drunk. I don't know, I was having to ponder on it or just forget about it because it's over with. I did not know this was like an 18, like an underage drinking situation. This is Paris, so I know drinking ages vary, but so I don't know like the legal repercussions or like things like that, or like how it would apply whenever you're traveling somewhere where the drinking age is much lower. But since I imagine both of these people are American, I mean, I don't want to change screens here. I'm assuming both are American, so like this is like already like red flags, so many red flags. Then after verifying I was 18, refers to a question answered during a drinking game I'll explain later. Of course, I played it down with my response. At the time, I was embarrassed. I wanted to seem cool because I'd never been sexual with someone before. How was I supposed to know what it was supposed to feel like emotionally? Was I nervous and uncomfortable because I didn't want it, or because I was inexperienced, or because I was drunk? I didn't understand what I felt, but I knew it felt off. And the friends in that room were some of the last people I came out about how it affected me, because I was embarrassed about my inexperience, embarrassed at the fact that it was out in the open, scared to react when it happened, because with any reaction I showed I had an audience, and he made his move in front of a room full of people. But let me remind you that their initial gut reaction by simply being in the same room and seeing the situation was the message me the next day, worried, asking if I was okay. I hate to say it with these people as well that was surrounding her. Like, I know that like it's good to like check on your friends and see that they're okay. I understand in a situation like this, these are both people who are technically adults in this situation. Like, she's not, even though there's an age difference, they're both adults by all meanings of the word. Just because they're in the age group. Even with that being the situation, those friends are just as liable and just as not to say like they're like, I don't want to be like, I don't know these people, but these are bad friends. Bad friends let that shit happen because they have fear of repercussions too. They don't want to make the situation awkward. That's not good friends. That's not good friends. Like, you don't let that happen in front of you. No, that's not how that works at all. That's not how that works at all. So like these are not good people either. So like I'm not necessarily siding with them as like the like these guys saw through, you know, like they're just as bad. So let's see. But let me remind you, wait, the wristband. I would like to mention another girl I didn't mention because the other guy, she left really early into the night. I'm admitting I didn't mention her because she only tagged along one night and didn't do much. I also didn't know her too well. She was friends with Clay and the girl talking to him. I haven't messaged her since that night until today when she reached out. Here are her messages from that night. Her message to me today and a SS of the group chat just with Clay in it. Okay. I'm like watching his stream for the first time right now and I'm losing my mind because the photo he thinks is you is my hand. Okay. It is clear that she sent the message in the chat, obviously it being her hand, no room for confusion on it, in my hand. And once again, he was not even in the group chat to see it, only Clay. And even if he just assumed we were all 21 because one of us was, all these assumptions. Oh, like assuming that the wristband worn meant that she was 21 and not 18. So she was, because she was underage drinking in the situation. It could have been cleared up real quick. Okay, yeah, with a question. Party we were at where the wristband talk initiated was at an 18 plus party that you needed a band to enter. We had people around us for the wristband to enter the party, not a 21 wristband to drink. And as you see in the pictures, 21 wristband was given by staff after seeing ID after entry. The wristbands we're asking around for and searching for was just entry to the party. Even if he thought I was asking around for a 21 wristband, that would only prove that I was underage. Again, neither guys were at the party. We didn't end up staying that night at the party because we get wristbands for everyone. Only a few of us got in. My one friend gave theirs to me so we could walk in and see the creator party for the first time. But I left immediately after taking a video or two, knowing Ghosty and other friends were sitting outside unable to get in. I know this is written out as like a one-off, but it makes things tougher because it's just like, you used a 21 wristband. Why? Let's see. We couldn't get wristbands for everyone. One of my friends gave me theirs so I could see a creator party. So she snuck into a party that she was underage for. I didn't even have a party wristband on at the time. I met with them at the room, let alone get a 21 H1. I beg you all, watch my vlog from VidCon documenting the video of the party and the wristbands being cut off in the vlog. This is a tough thing because it's just like, personally, I think you separate the two parties. Like looking like logistics of it all, you shouldn't have an 18 plus party in the same room or nearby a 21 party. And wristbands shouldn't be able to be removed or given to somebody else in those situations for that exact situation. They should be tear-offable, not removable or whatever. And if she's going into these parties that she's not of age to go to, then I'm not saying it's okay to assume, because you should never assume, but it makes things harder because it's just like, what if the context of his understanding was, I thought she was 21? Because of that. Not everyone's doing like their full-on research to know every situation, especially with someone they don't fully know. But that's giving someone the benefit of the doubt. It just adds cloudiness to the situation. So, I thought she was 21. The girl who left early was also sent me this message today. It is her conversation with Clay that night before she left the room, as she recalls it to a friend a few days later. I typed the message on my phone and showed it to Clay, being like, does George realize that there's 8 years between him and Katie? That's 8 years. And he looks at me deadpan and is like, I don't see why it matters. It doesn't. It doesn't. It really doesn't. Yes, I will say for me, I personally get creeped out by people who hit on people, I'd say like 5 years plus out of their age. No, like 10 years plus out of their age, because people, like, once you get older too, this gap becomes larger. Like between 30 and 40 is not a lot, but between 20 and 30 is a lot. So it's like, so it really depends. This is a lot. Age is a lot, but personally, I'm in the boat of, I don't see why it matters. Either someone who's 18 could be with someone who's 26, and that's fine. But it can also be a creepy situation. But I don't think it's like universally like 18 and 26 is not okay, because someone who's 26 is still quite young. I would say optimally 21 and 26, you know, but then again, 21 and 30 is probably seems far too, right? So it's, to me, it's like, you can't really judge it based off of that. He was drunk, so I do not fault him for what he may have responded as. Maybe he wasn't thinking right, as I had not been able to while intoxicated. This is while recalling, so it could be wrong or untruthful, but I don't believe she was the reason. The lie, simply messaging a friend a few days later, especially when at the time of the text and up until I came public about it, she didn't even know anything had happened that night. She left before. So the way this is looking is pretty obvious. GeorgeNotFound made advances against somebody who was an adult, but was underage drinking and knew they were drunk. They were also drunk, but in this situation, it seems extremely one-sided. He was making the advances. He was making the moves. If some of it was like reciprocated and things like that, that could make it confusing. But it seems like, for the most part, it seems like it's very one-sided in this situation. And I think it goes back to what the beginning of this post was saying, which was silence is not consent. I think it's easier. I think this is not complicated. It really isn't. That night, the game we were playing asked who was the last loser virginity, aka youngest. This is when I said me, because I was 18 and still a virgin. This is when Clea chimed to argue that his best friend is saying along the lines as well, he lost his at 19. You aren't that old yet, so he technically would still drink, and he drank. I assume this meant he was listening, but maybe he wasn't. I remember that this question because of text I sent because of something I'll never forget. Honestly, like, yeah, this would be an immediate red flag to any guy. Like, oh, like, hey, you're 18. Like, it seems like enough situations happen to let people know, like, hey, I was 18. I'm not saying you're necessarily in the place to be like, hey, you're not allowed to drink, stop drinking. Though that would be what a good friend does. But in this situation, that gives you enough clues to like, hey, like, this is probably not okay. They're probably too young to have any sort of tolerance to understand or comprehend what they're doing. Yes, I know it's hard to remember a question like that thinking back now, but that night he couldn't have forgotten it that quick. Remembering back to my answer, just an hour or minutes before prior, making a move didn't seem impossible. With him saying I didn't remember what happened that night, Nick picking my story apart with his great drunk memory. I wonder how he can't remember the most important part of it, aka me saying my age. In this situation, because she's 18, I think the age difference won't matter. Just on the overall scheme of things, what's going to matter overall is going to be basically she's drunk in this situation, in underage drinking in this situation. More than the age. I'm not saying it doesn't matter at all, but I think more so it's going to be the underage drinking. Yes. Oh, wait. I don't think he's dumb. I think even if he was talking to someone, especially in instant DMs, he would check for an age or at least see a bio. You can't expect that. People, not everybody does that. Someone who is so concerned about consent wouldn't be so naive. Some people even put like their age in like their bio. and don't update it. Like there's no official like updating it unless it's like maybe it's the birthday thing, but like who says those are truthful or accurate? So like you can't assume that that's what's gonna happen. Someone with such a big platform wouldn't risk it unless they knew they could pull the I didn't know card. I mean, I think people are willing to risk a lot. Her friends influenced her because they hate us. I wonder why their hatred grew because of what happened to me. These situations always end in victim blame. I didn't do this. If I didn't do this, she shouldn't have worn that. She shouldn't have been drinking. She was asking for it. She really shouldn't have been drinking, but yeah, even still, you don't deserve that in a situation. She was asking for it. We are embedded into a society to cover for assault. That's what we're built on. It's easy to say what I should have done and looking on from the outside, but not being the one in the situation in the moment. It's also easier to think of how I could have gotten out of the situation now that I'm not in it. I would say more so, let's focus less on what somebody could have done to avoid that situation, and let's focus on the many people who witnessed it or were part of it who did nothing. That to me is more telling and more like unfortunate than anything else. I think a lot of people go like, oh, these are my friends, you know, they did this for me, but like friends shouldn't do that to people. People who are perpetrators shouldn't do that to people. This is more telling than the actual person who's making the choices. And now that I am sober, I can make clear choices. I want the situation to circle back to the original point, to make aware the reality that many girls face in the community, that many people are forced into silence. It's not petty drama, but real life people that have been affected. I just don't want victims to feel they have to prove themselves to people to be believed. That's what they are. That they are only valid if they have proof. I believe you. My story was built different because it was on such a wide scale with such a big audience. Yes, I know I do not owe it. Victims don't owe anything to anyone, but with my unique situation, I have to give proof. Yes, victims don't owe anything. Like if you're truly a victim, the burden of proof does lie on you, but like you don't owe it to anyone to have to prove it. It's not to say like you could just blindly say things, but the way that the court systems work, the way that anything works, is that the burden of proof is on you. And you could say a lot of things like the texts or the situation, the writing was on the wall, things were advancing super quickly. And this is what happens whenever you have someone who's underage drinking with adults and people who are creeps and people who sexually assault people. You could say this is like the standard stereotype situation. The truth of the situation is that it will be obvious what the truth is, and people will make it unclear until it's like, well, this is what he was thinking and he didn't know, and like these type of things. If you got to do that and backtrack that much, then both are to blame in some degree, you know. And I think people are making this more complex than it needs to be. I also want to know that those who make fake allegations to deplatform someone or seek the attention are scum. You are the reason people chose to never come out with their stories. You are the reason that there is distrust among coming forward about these situations. I hope you rot. I find it funny when people say victims do this for clout, because I can promise you anyone who come forward about something like this knows a large sum of what you receive is endless hate, because becomes what you're known for. It's the price you have to pay to speak up. This will be the only proof or response I have, as I don't have energy and have said all I have to say. Any responses further on from now, I will not be responding to because I am physically away and also mentally taking a break. My comments on platforms are flooded with hate, so I cannot say I'll be active anywhere else, but I see the support. I appreciate you all. I just hope some people would realize how how so many unknown things go on behind the scenes and how dangerous blind idolization is, but I suppose it's an issue that will take much more time. Yes, and this is what honestly is it Katie? This is honestly what Katie is an example of. This is it's idolization that allowed sexual assault to happen, plain and simple. And you could say both people are drunk, but when you have somebody who's underage drinking, it immediately skews it. Not necessarily just like, oh, it's in her favor, but immediately skews it. And any common sense person would know that that's where it stops. That's where the situation stops. I don't care how well your tolerance is, or if you've been drinking since you were 15, whatnot, does not matter. Legally and looking from that standpoint, it does not matter. I just hope some people would realize how so many unknown things go on behind the scenes. And how dangerous. Oh, wait. And most importantly, this isn't a one-time thing. The larger creators that have reached out about their stories concerning them are still too scared to come forward. They make me sick. Women who have been friends with them, people I watch, people I've never spoken to, people I have. This is so much bigger than me. I wish they find peace. There's a reason people have distanced themselves from these men. There's a reason other creators act like they do. My experience is simply the only one public, and no creator owes it to anyone to share their experience with them. I just wish it was more obvious, seeing the people who have distanced themselves and people who still surround them to this day. I will be away for a week and I will stream the final statements. I want to continue my content. Don't let this define me. I honestly think it was a bit messy at the beginning, but it did clear up a bit the way it is. I do think it's a lot simpler than people are making it out to be. There's a video I want to watch because here it is. Since reading Katie's post, my perspectives on the night and overall conclusion has massively changed, and she introduced new information that I was not aware of at all before. I have much I will say, but for now, Katie, I'm sorry. I really hope you hear my words and try to understand I did not have any bad intentions. It does not change the fact that you were hurt. I will be saying more soon. I think it's fine for this person to be ignorant of some things and not know. At the same time, I do think that there was much more to it that we're ignoring.
We had previously been cuddling on this couch for around an hour, but I did place my hand on her waist under her shirt. The way it's phrased makes it sound like it just happened out of nowhere, when in reality we'd been cuddling for over an hour at this point, and it was not out of nowhere. It was also around half an hour until I started moving my hand further up, and the way it's phrased just makes it seem like it happened pretty instantly and pretty quickly. There was nothing quick about it. It was very slow, and I was very cautious about it and making sure that she was comfortable throughout the process. Me and Katie were very touchy, very cuddly, and very slowly got more intimate. I've always been overly cautious with consent, and this is not just because I'm a creator. I've been like this since before I was a creator, and I think that's just the way.
I think that's BS. She's underage drinking. I mean, then again, this is hard for me to tell, because like, are both of these people okay to drink? The only thing that matters is that this person is not in the right state of mind to make decisions like this, despite being an adult, because she is drunk. Simple as that. Let's watch the rest of this one.
Probably shouldn't go back to the hotel room with the guys alone. Some guy kind of like felt me up a little bit, but nothing happened, and then I left. That is a lucky scenario. That's lucky. Nothing happened. You're good. Like, holy shit. What an easy way to learn a lesson without anything fucking insane happening. Wait, what the fuck?
It was the first time anyone had ever touched me.
It's lucky that something didn't happen, but let's be real. This is still sexual assault. If she was drunk.
Sensitive about it all, that it wasn't a big deal, but assuring only can go so far. I felt dirty in a way that I couldn't wash off.
Bro, where did she get what rape diary was she reading? Like, oh, I felt dirty in a way that could never come. I could never be clean again. Like, who gave her this language? There's no way she's writing. Like, bro, come on, really?
I couldn't help the way that my body reacted and flinched. Part of me still wanted to feel cool about it all, to convince myself I was lucky so I didn't have to think about it. I would reimagine the scenario in my head, replaying it again and again, what I could have done, what I could have said instead. But it didn't matter. None of it did, because he never asked, and that fact would never change, no matter how hard I thought about it. I changed after that. I believed life wasn't fair, I was naive, and maybe sometimes to a fault, but I could only wish it lasted longer. I miss not knowing. I used to be kind. I'm angry a lot of the time now, at that person, at myself, at the fact that a year later, I can feel my heartbeat stop at the sight of him, and he probably couldn't even make out my face in a crowd. I can't stop thinking about who I was before it all, who I'll never be again, and how some things you can't undo no matter how
Who will never be again?
hard you try. I never said anything out of pure embarrassment. I was embarrassed it happened, and I was afraid to look weak or to
I hate that I'm getting a little jaded from things like this. The way these happen are a little pattern of public theory allegations, people being weird, then finding out what happened wasn't that serious. It wasn't. Sure, but like, okay, here, hold on, okay?
Like, once again, like, yes, someone can be over exaggerating, like how much it affected them. But people can legitimately have these feelings, and it's legitimate where you do feel this way after the fact, or you can come to this realization much longer after the fact of like, oh man, like what did I do? You know, like what was this? What was this, and why? Like, I didn't realize that I felt this way until like I really thought about it after the fact, and I was like, damn.
Got to keep in mind a couple things. Everything in the online world is different than everything in the real world, okay? All of this is like so much different, okay? Because like in the real world, what'll happen is like this story, except like the girl actually gets roofied and actually gets raped and doesn't tell anybody because she feels embarrassed or humiliated about it, or she's not even sure if you want it. There's like everything in the real world is way different. This is some online like farming communities because they're all full of like 15-year-olds. And honest to God, here's what I'm waiting to happen. I'm waiting for a story to come out where like a 19-year-old girl comes out crying and just recounts a story where she had fully consensual sex with a 21-year-old guy and he still gets canceled for it. Like she's like, yeah, we hooked up and I said yes and I did consent the whole time, but he was.
And I think those situations have happened, where it's been two consenting adults. Maybe there's no alcohol involved. Maybe there's alcohol involved, but you know, both people are consenting adults and 21. I think people like to diminish that acts can happen or feelings can be a certain type of way because it's in the moment, or you don't want to upset people. I think that's fine. Plain and simple, like this is lessons learned. Like these are things that we learn, thankfully, in situations that don't have to escalate to the point that this happened. But like, how bad is it? How bad is it? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, like how bad is this certain situation? I would say like a 5 or a 6. It definitely advanced that way, and it could have gone further, but it didn't. It's still not an okay situation, but it's like mistakes were made on both sides. It's just that one was mistakes made by somebody who was underage drinking of her own volition, as far as we know, sneaking into parties that where she was underage deliberately, and trying to place herself next to somebody who was much older, and on the opposite end. So that's her putting herself in that situation, and the rest is someone making choices that takes advantage of someone putting themselves in that situation. Is this a nothing sandwich though? Is it a nothing sandwich? It could be. I don't know from a legal standpoint where she stands. Like if this it's like well, she's an adult. I didn't force her to drink. She drank on her own. And nothing was said. She didn't say no. But we had been cuddling and it went further. We were both drinking. I think in a legal standpoint though, because she is underage drinking, it would lean towards it would lead towards her, and that would be justified. I'm not saying that GeorgeNotFound is innocent in this situation, despite that being the case. I think that he says he's careful in these situations about consent, but part of consent is the age of consent, and drinking age does affect that, and that's an important part about consent. So clearly he's not that careful. Like, clearly that's the whole thing about being careful. Like, I mean, let's be real. Like, that's not truly being careful. That's being. But I find it funny. I find it funny. The only funny part about the situation is it seems to be these Minecraft YouTubers. So what the fuck is up with Minecraft YouTubers as of late? Like, what the fuck is happening? It's imploding. It's imploding with creeps and fucking weirdos. That's for sure. Anyways, fuck it.